Hillary Clinton and the DNC fined over $100,000 for the fake Russian collusion hoax. Remember the dossier that was proffered forward in the run-up to the 2016 election. Totally proven false. Washington Examiner now has the scoop. You can see this article came over from Paul Bedard, March 30th. 2022 shows us the FEC has issued a sanction penalty against both the DNC and Hillary Clinton for their involvement in 2016. That story details us. They tell us they've been fined, both of them, for lying about the discredited, now infamous Russian dossier. This was the big thing that came out from Michael Steele saying that Donald Trump was engaged in all sorts of nefarious activity. This turned out to be a smear attempt that they tried to drop on the world right before Trump went on to victory. The election agency and now federal agency said that Clinton and the DNC violated strict rules on describing these expenditures, talking about the money that was being funneled over to the opposition research firm, places like Fusion GPS, which was sort of a subsidiary that was working with a lot of other different agencies on behalf of the Clinton team. They found that a combined over $1 million, $1,024,407 was in fact paid by treasurers from the DNC. That's the Democratic National Committee. That is the overarching conglomerate of Democrats. They paid $1 million. So did Clinton campaign. All of that went over to the law firm Perkins Coie. Who was over there at Perkins Coie, you ask? Oh yeah, we've talked about him many times. Michael Sussman was over there, along with other people who were heavily involved in the litigation and really the scheme that was conducted to try to tarnish Trump. You see here that Perkins Coie ended up paying for Fusion GPS's information, and the party and the campaign hid the reason. They're not going to tell you what it's for. They said it was for legal services, not for opposition research, or it really should have been sort of like fictional narrative writing or something. Here, instead, the DNC's $850,000 and the Clinton campaign's $175,000. Those covered Fusion GPS's opposition research. That was the dossier. That was the basis for the Russia hoax that Washington Times writes dogged Trump's first term. And it did, right? This was something that led to all sorts of investigations of basically everybody on his campaign team. We heard Russia, 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 Russia. That was Stephen Colbert coming out talking about Putin and so on and so forth. All of this based on a fake dossier that was proffered forward by a guy named Michael Steele, that was sent over to attorneys at Perkins Coie, that then forwarded it over to the FBI, that then started the whole snowball running down the hill. And it doesn't stop there. The memo that came out from the FEC says that the Clinton campaign and the DNC argued that they were correct. No, we were right. We were honest about all this, describing that their payment was for legal advice and services because it was Perkins Coie, that hired Fusion GPS, not Hillary Clinton. In other words, what they're saying is, we did not hire Fusion GPS. Perkins Coie did. Hillary and the DNC are trying to use Perkins Coie as an insulator to say they went out and actually hired Fusion GPS. It wasn't us. We didn't go hire. Perkins Coie did. Therefore, we're immune of any liability. They said that the agency responded, said, no, the law is clear. Okay, the law was violated. You can't do that. It added that neither the campaign nor the party conceded to lying, even though they did, but they're not going to contest the finding. They're just going to say, all right, we're not liars. We know we're just not going to admit to any fault. We're going to take a look at the actual agreement that they signed. Quote, it says solely for the purposes of settling this matter, no party concedes. We'll take a closer look at that. The FEC in the memo to the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation, which filed its complaint over 3 years ago, said it fined Clinton treasurer $8,000. So the penalty to Clinton's only $8,000, to the DNC $105,000. So it sounds like it's sort of proportional to what the initial investment was. You know, they're fining them sort of a percentage of what the expenditure was. The memo, shared with secrets, is to be made public within a month. Dan Backer, who brought the complaint, this fella here, on behalf of the foundation. This foundation focuses on free speech, says, quote, this may well be the first time that Hillary Clinton, one of the most evidently corrupt politicians in American history, true, fact check true on that one, has actually been held legally accountable. And I'm proud to have forced the FEC to do their job for once. Who is this guy? Dan Backer? Amen, brother. Says the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation proved that with the pluck and grit, Americans who stand with integrity can stand up to the Clinton machine and other corrupt political elites. Love that. Clinton has in the past defended her campaign spending for the information and for the work of her campaign lawyer. This guy, Mark Elias, the guy who runs Democracy Docket, the guy who was responsible for a lot of the Democrats' pre-2020 election litigation that changed all sorts of rules in the run-up to the election because of COVID, right? Oh, we got to move dates and got to allow ballot harvesting and collection. And we have to allow all sorts of additional extensions of deadlines and online voting or vote by mail, all these different things, right? All the rules changed. Largely, his law firm was behind a lot of these legal efforts. He also worked with Fusion GPS, which compiled the dossier and hired the former British spy, Christopher Steele. Ex-MI6 or whatever it is, said that they had this dossier and it was all legitimate, and it had to be because the British are really smart over there. They've got good intelligence agents. And so how could they possibly be making something up? Well, Trump said from day one, and everybody else knew, that the dossier was full of lies. FBI called it fake, but only after the damage had already settled in. The narrative had taken hold. Republicans continued to press for charges against Clinton, but backer with Washington's Chalmers and Adams law firm held out hope for further action against Clinton. He said, Hillary and her cronies willfully engaged in the greatest political fraud in history, destroying our nation's faith in the electoral process. He says it's high time that they were accountable. I hope this is only the beginning, he says. And I concur with him on that. So go make sure you follow Mr. Backer wherever it is. You can find him over at Chalmers and Adams, keeping the pressure on the Clintons. We can also take a look at this letter that went back to him. So this was posted over from the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation. And so from the FEC, this is the actual resolution. They're saying, we see here, March 29, 2022, they filed a complaint. Coolidge-Reagan Foundation is now the party who's receiving this. It's regarding the complaint that they filed. Mr. Backer, they said, we're responding to you. It's now 2022. I know you sent this in 2018, but sorry, it's the government. They say, after conducting an investigation into your complaint, we found that there is probable cause to believe that Hillary for America and Elizabeth Jones as the treasurer violated the U.S. code. On February, we signed an agreement, a conciliation agreement that's going to resolve this whole thing. And we're going to dismiss the allegation against Christopher Steele. We're going to dismiss the allegation against Mark Elias and others. We're just going to let it stand and let it ride against Hillary and the DNC. Documents related to the case are going to be public on record in 30 days. But of course, all of this has been disclosed previously. So attorney Richard L. Weiss sent that over to Mr. Dan Baker, who is the attorney who was behind all of this. And so they're saying that this is going to be public soon, but they've made their copy of it public already. You can see here, this is the conciliation agreement in the matter of Hillary for America and Elizabeth Jones. And so this is sort of like a settlement agreement. This is Hillary Clinton and the FEC. FEC says, look, we got a complaint against you. Turns out it's true. What do you want to do about this? Do you want to, litigate this and go, or do you want to just sort of resolve this? And Hillary's like, what's it going to cost me? $8,000? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, here, take it and go away. Yeah, I know what I did. And I'm not, do I have to admit I did anything wrong? No. All right, take your $8,000 and leave me alone. And so that's exactly what this is all about. The commission found probable cause to believe that Hillary for America and Elizabeth Jones violated the law by misreporting the use of certain disbursements. The purpose behind the money, where was it for? Well, they lied about it. The commission has jurisdiction. They had a reasonable opportunity to respond. Everybody was involved. The pertinent facts are as follows. Hillary was, or respondent, Hillary for America and Elizabeth Jones were authorized to do this. Fusion GPS is a consulting firm that does due diligence and investigates things. Perkins Coie, law firm retained by Hillary. They engaged Fusion GPS in 2016, and Perkins Coie paid $1 million over to Fusion GPS, funded, of course, by Hillary and the DNC. As stated, $175,000 came from Hillary. A big other portion of that came from the DNC. Respondent contends that it filed all relevant reports, and they say that GPS conducted the research. They performed the work on behalf, and so we're immune. They say, well, that's a nice argument, Hillary. We appreciate that. I know you think that you're covered by this sort of force field of liability, but no, that's not how this works. They say under the federal law, as amended, political committees are required to report the names and follow these rules. We talk about the purpose under the law. They say, for the purpose of settling this matter, we're not going to contest any of this. Hillary's team is saying, we're disagreeing with your finding of probable cause, but we're not going to fight with you about it. Why? Oh, right here, very convenient. Solely for the purpose of settling this matter expeditiously and to avoid further legal costs and media and conversations and inquiries about all of this and more people like me making videos about it. Respondent does not concede. Hillary, I don't concede anything, but we're not going to further contest the commission's finding. You think there's probable cause, we don't, but we're just going to let bygones be bygones here. What's it going to take to make this all go away? They say no problem here, it's $8,000. Hillary just has to pay a civil penalty to the commission. $8,000, not a big deal. The DNC, a little bit of a heftier fine. They got over $100,000. This agreement becomes effective 30 days or becomes immediately, but then no further than 30 days after. They've got to start complying with all of this stuff, and then it will be made public. So, number of different people here, a part of the commission, signing off on this document. And we know that Hillary Clinton is going to be paying for her Russia collusion hoax, but it's only $8,000. Seems like kind of a steep, a cheap price, I should say, to get away with one of the biggest political hoaxes, one that really put a thorn in Trump's side for the entirety of his first term in office. First, because he's probably going to run again. We'll see if he gets a second. But that's Hillary Clinton. That's the corrupt DNC, literally creating fictional narratives out of the Steele dossier, proffering it forward to the FBI, starting a whole investigation that dogged the Trump campaign, the Trump administration for some period of time. After all of the investigation is said and done, what happens? $8,000, which is tip money to these people. So that's justice in America. That's Hillary Clinton. Let me know what you have to say about this down in the comments below. I would love it if you subscribed and shared this video with somebody who would be outraged by this. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.